So if you're currently learning Spanish and it just feels so difficult, like you're climbing this never-ending mountain, you're making minimal progress, and you're wondering whether you're ever going to reach the promised land of fluency, I understand how you feel because I was there as well. But in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I overcame that so you can do the same thing. And by the way, if you don't know who I am, my name is Jonathan. I became conversationally fluent in Spanish in 8 months. Since then, I did a few interviews explaining the process that I went through. So this is the interview I did with Mike Ben. This is the interview I did with Pablo from Dream in Spanish. And since then, I actually met my partner who's Spanish. And I just say that to say that I've now reached a point where I pretty much operate on my day-to-day in Spanish. Whereas there was a point where I was frustrated or I felt like, you know what, this Spanish thing is so complex, just how you're thinking yourself. But I realized there was three things that I could focus on that would help me to overcome that thought process. Okay. And the first thing that I realized was that the way I was approaching language learning mentally wasn't doing me any favors. And this is the first thing to check out. It's how am I approaching this task mentally? And the way I liken this is that, for example, sometimes you might go to the gym and you have a workout to do, right? So let's say you need to do, I don't know, 12 sets of squats. 12 reps of squats. Now, depending on how you're thinking about those 12 reps can actually be harder or it can be easier, or at least it can feel harder or it can feel easier. What do I mean? But there's some ways where maybe you might chunk it. Maybe you might do, okay, I'm going to do 6 reps as quickly as possible, and then I'm going to do 3, and then I'm going to feel like, okay, great, I've only got 3 left. That's one way you can do it. Maybe you might want to count, okay, I'm going to do 2, then I'm going to do 2, then I'm going to do 2, then I'm going to do 2, and then I'm going to, all right, cool, then I've got 6 left, and I'm going to do that way. Or maybe I'm going to do 10 straight, then be like, okay, I've got 2 left. It depends. But basically, sometimes I realize that when I'm in the gym, there's different ways that I approach the workout that will help me to feel like, okay, great, this is easier for me to do, or at least I'll get to certain checkpoints and I'll feel like, you know what, I can finish this now in comparison to just trying to do 12, right? And the reason why I say this is because one of the main things that was holding me back, one of the main things that made learning Spanish feel more difficult than it needed to feel at the start was that I was approaching language learning like 12 reps that I had to complete in the gym. Meaning, okay, I need to do this 1 rep, then I need to do this 1 rep, this 1 rep. And all these reps were things that I had to learn. Okay, I need to learn these verbs, I need to learn this vocab, I need to learn this rule, then I need to learn this rule, then I'll finish the workout. The challenge is language learning doesn't really work like that. The way that I've realized that it works is that it's an ongoing relationship that you're building with the language. And ultimately, the more time you spend with the language and the deeper or more intimate relationship you build with that language, the better you're going to be able to speak the language and the better you're going to be able to understand the language when natives are speaking. Now, the reason why that change in mindset makes all the difference is because once your expectations change, your ability to, let's say, navigate the disappointment or the potential disappointment once you've done the 12 sets or you've done the 5 sets and you feel like, wow, I'm not actually improving, or you've done the 6 sets and you feel like, wow, I thought I would be fluent by now, but I'm not. If you change your approach, your expectations will also change. And when your expectations change and you're not operating with that, okay, I need to learn this, and learn this, and learn this, and learn this. What happens is you can actually endure for a longer period of time, which, funny enough, allows you to reach the goal that you're looking to reach much faster. So when I realized that, hang on a second, this isn't a game of me having a list of things that I need to learn and be like, okay, I need to learn this first, I need to learn this first, I need to learn this first. This is a game of me, hypothetically speaking, trying to find ways of just enjoying doing the squats. Like, let's forget about the 12 squats for now, and let's just find ways to enjoy. Okay, great. Like when I'm going down, this actually feels kind of interesting. Let me see if I can do it a little bit faster this time. Let me see if I can do it a little bit slower this time. Let me see if, okay, this time when I go down in the squat, I can have some fun and like hold it for a couple of seconds. It's like, I realized that, okay, this is just a game of finding ways to enjoy squatting, finding ways to enjoy spending time with Spanish. Okay. And once I changed that mental mind frame, it meant that, okay, great. That feeling of, oh, this is so difficult. I don't understand these complex verb structures. I don't understand these conjugations. I don't understand these irregular verbs. All of that slowly just started going away. And before I knew it, some of the more complex ideas in Spanish that I thought I'd never be able to understand, I started to pick them up more naturally. Now, once you've done this leads on to my second point, which is the reason why learning Spanish might be feeling more complex than it needs to be. And it's because of your form. And when I say your form, the way I liken this is to, for example, I used to play basketball. I used to play for a basketball team. And do you know, like when I was maybe I think I was like maybe like 13 or 14 when I was playing. Actually, no, I was like 15 or 16. I was playing for this basketball team in my area. And, as you can imagine, everybody wants to learn how to shoot 3 pointers, right? Which is basically when you shoot from further, like a further distance away from the basketball hoop, right? So when I started trying to shoot these 3 pointers, I realized that wow, I'm actually not strong enough to shoot and reach the hoop from like that distance. And I was like, wow, this is actually so difficult. And one thing I realized is that I started watching these videos of, okay, how to shoot from further away from the hoop. And I realized that one of the key things that helps you to shoot further away from the hoop is your form. So without going into too much detail, the way I was shooting is that I was doing like what they call a two motion shot, which is where you have like the set point kind of behind your head like this. So you bring the ball up like this, you hold it here, and then like you jump high and then you shoot, which is kind of like the more traditional olden style way of shooting. Okay. But then what happened was I realized that, okay, there's people like, for example, Steph Curry, which you might have heard of. I'm sure he wasn't the first one to do this, but he was one of the, let's say, the pioneers of what we call the one motion shot, which is where you kind of just like use your legs, your set point, instead of being behind your head, it's like in front of your face. And basically you're just pushing from your legs and allowing all the energy to flow and you just flick the ball like this. And when I tried it, and I tried this form for the first time, I realized that, wow, I can actually shoot from way further with the same strength. I didn't like get any stronger, but the same strength, a different form allowed me to shoot from way further away. And obviously you do need to practice and like make sure you can actually do it accurately. But the point is sometimes if you change your form, what you're trying to do actually starts to feel a little bit easier. And you will notice the same thing in the gym. You'll notice the same thing. Sometimes, like, for example, you go bowling and like you're trying to do it a certain way and you're like really forcing it and it's not working. And you realize, hang on, if I just like change the angle a little bit, do it a little bit lighter, hold my arm a little bit. Oh, wow, it's actually easier than I thought. The same thing happens with learning Spanish. Sometimes what happens is the problem is the way you're approaching it, like your technique. When we say form in learning language, we're now talking about, okay, what exercises, what what is your routine, what is the method, what is your technique for learning Spanish? Okay, because sometimes what happens is we're using techniques that require too much strength. Like for example, when I was doing that two motion shot, that requires a lot of arm strength. And what happens is the legs are naturally, with most people, the legs are going to be stronger than your arms. You can move more weight with your legs than your arms. So when it comes to Spanish learning, where can I metaphorically shift the focus of my strength from my arms to my legs? I noticed that for me, it was consuming content because I'm the type of person that I just love consuming content anyways. And so if I can now shift the focus of away from my arms, which is like sitting down to study, to my legs, which is just like watching videos in Spanish, I realized that, hang on, this is actually, okay, I can actually shoot from further now. This is actually way easier because I've switched up my form. Okay. And you'll notice as well that once you do this, it will become a little bit more enjoyable. It'll become a little bit more um, like something that you want to do anyway, which is going to, by the way, it's going to reinforce the first point that I mentioned, whereby this is just a game of spending time with Spanish. The more you can do this and the more you can find ways that are more interesting and more enjoyable for you when you're using your legs rather than using your arms, what will happen is mentally you'll stop focusing on the difficulties and you'll start focusing on the fact that, okay, great, this is actually something I'm enjoying. And bit by bit, you'll start to pick up some of these specific things that seem difficult. Now, you'll notice that I haven't gone into any specific things that you need to do. And you might be like, okay, but just like tell me, what do I need to do? What's the specific routine? We're actually going to get into a routine later on in the video. But the point is that I'm trying to emphasize is that you'll notice that everybody has a slightly different method of learning Spanish. Like you can even do this experiment. Look up 10 different videos of how I learned Spanish. And you'll notice that even if everybody has similar good results, they will all have different ways. But you'll notice that each person found their own formula. They found their own form and they found, metaphorically speaking, a way to use their legs rather than their arms. Some people, they actually like sitting down to study. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that. Personally, I don't think that's the most effective way to learn Spanish. But in the same way, there's some people that actually like to shoot with their arms. There are some great shooters that do it that way. So it depends on knowing yourself and being like, okay, great. If I've been learning this and it feels difficult, it feels like I'm putting too much effort into my shot and I'm not even making, I can't even shoot from that far. Can I switch my form? Can I switch the way that I'm approaching this mentally? Can I switch my form? The answer probably is yes. And what will happen is once you switch it, you'll be able to know, okay, great, that actually probably helped me out a little bit. Now, I would recommend for most people to look at, okay, how can I find more enjoyable ways to spend more time with Spanish? Okay. If you can do that for the majority of people, what that will do is it will help you to spend more time with the language and naturally, because we've already got the ability to recognize patterns of language. It's something that we downloaded at birth. Like we already were given the app. We already downloaded it. All we just need to do now is apply it to Spanish. But the point is, the more time we can spend with Spanish in its natural context, the more we're going to be able to use the application and the more you're going to be able to pick up these difficult concepts with time. Now, the third reason, though, why this might feel more difficult than it needs to feel is because of the systems or the routines that you have in place. Now, if you don't have any systems, if you don't have any routines that you're currently using that are solid and reliable to learn Spanish, what will happen is this will still feel more difficult than it needs to feel. So, for example, let's say you've got a system whereby, great, I'm approaching this correctly mentally. I understand this is a relationship I'm building. Great, I'm using my legs rather than my arms. But then you don't have a daily system to stay consistent. You don't have a routine that gets you into the flow or the momentum of learning Spanish. This will still feel more difficult for you than it needs to feel. So what I would definitely recommend is finding a way where you can program Spanish into your day-to-day to reduce the friction that it takes for you to spend time with Spanish. Now, what I have created, and I'll show you guys, is something called the 60 by 60 Spanish challenge or the Spanish routine. And the point is, what this is going to help you to do is to develop a system, to develop a routine that will help you in a very simple way to pick up a very easy way to learn Spanish. Now, you can do this from whatever level you're at. Like, let's say you literally just started learning Spanish today, this will work for you. If you've been learning Spanish for a few months, this will work with you. If you've been learning Spanish for a few years, this will work with you. Because the first thing we're going to do is establish consistency. And depending on the level you have, it will vary what you need to do. But ultimately, all we're going to be doing is spending 60 minutes with Spanish per day for 60 days straight. If you can do that consistently, then all you need to do is, depending on what your schedule's like, is okay, great, I've done 60 minutes consistently. Now let me add another 60 minutes. Or okay, great, I've done 60 minutes consistently. Let me add another. Let me add another 60 minutes. Let me add another 60 minutes again. If you've got time to do it like that, doesn't necessarily matter. Or you can say, okay, great, I've done 60 minutes. Let me now add more complexity to it. Let me change the exercises that I'm doing. But the point is, we start off with the system and the routine. Okay, so for example, the way this works, very simple. If you're in a position where currently you cannot understand a native Spanish movie or a Spanish movie/series for native Spanish speakers, you can't understand at least 60% of it. All you do is you focus on this first group. If you can understand it, you focus on the second group. And when I say this first group or the second group, all it means is that you might have different activities that you're focusing on within the 60 minutes. Okay. So for example, this first group that cannot understand native Spanish series yet, and I say yet because if you do this for a long enough time, you will be able to. All you do is 30 minutes of Dreaming Spanish, right? And the focus is comprehension, and then do 30 minutes of watching content of your choice. And this can be whatever is what's most enjoyable for yourself. So 30 minutes will be more comprehensible content, and 30 minutes will be content of your choice, whatever's interesting for you in the moment. That could be more Dreaming Spanish. It might not be. Now, you might be thinking, oh no, but I need to learn some grammar. I need to understand like the rules and like the different sentence structures. Yeah, I mean, you will pick that up naturally with time. If you're the type of person that just is curious and you want to learn that stuff, you can research that. That won't count towards the 60 minutes, but you can look it up if you want to. I'm sure if you type in Spanish grammar explained simply in YouTube, I'm sure you'll find some videos. But the point is, that isn't focus. Like that will come. I'm sure if you watch some of those videos, it'll give you a bit of context and you'll be able to spot a few things. Okay, great. That's the past tense. That's the present tense. Oh, that was in the video. Excellent. Great. But for the most part, sorry, we're just focusing on doing this, spending the 60 minutes consistently, right? We actually don't want to overcomplicate it because a lot of the times, the way we're thinking about language learning is just way too complex. It doesn't have to be that complex. Now, let's say you're in a position where you are able to understand these movies or these series for natives. Well, then we're going to spend 30 minutes watching content of your choice. We're focusing on enjoyment here, whatever the topic is. For example, me right now with my language learning, I'm enjoying watching content about football news, like what's going on in the transfer market with different teams, Barcelona, the best. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what's interesting for you. But once you do that, then I would recommend 20 minutes of reading. And this is where we want to focus on comprehension. So I'd recommend to start off with read the graded books, the novels, graded reading novels, like the A1, A2, B1, B2 novels. That will give you a good foundation. Then you can move on to the novels for natives. But the main thing is you don't want to understand the high percentage of what you're reading so that you can easily pick up extra content. And then just do 10 minutes of speaking on a random topic, record yourself. And what that will allow you to do is see the progress and start to practice like making some of the sounds. Very simple, by the way, very simple. But if you can do this consistently, what will happen is you will have the baseline, the system in place, the routine in place. Then you can start to add the complexity. You can start to add the Ankies. You can start to add the word farming. You can start to add maybe the shadowing if you want to do shadowing. You can start to add some of these more complex ideas. Then we can even increase the time if you want. Maybe, oh yeah, I've done 1 hour now. I realize I can actually do 2 if I wanted to. I can actually do 3. I could actually do 4 a day. Fantastic. But at least you've got the baseline now, right? And the way you're going to make sure that you do this consistently is a few things. We want to create a calendar, add it to your calendar. The second thing you want to do is I've got this tracker here. All of this is in the document. I'll leave it below. Where you can actually this is the easy way to just track what you did every day. You just go through here and track everything. You can put the date here. And then the last thing is if you want me to personally help you to implement all of this, if you want to be in a group with myself, or help you to make Spanish seem a lot more simple for you, cut out all the noise, give you the best exercise you can do, the best type of content you can watch, and hold you accountable to do it as well. Then I'm going to leave you the link below in the description to my personal private community. And we can actually learn Spanish together. But if not, no worries. I'll see you in the next video.